Hello everybody and welcome. We are going to do a little bit of seed starting today. It is February 22nd in Zone 6B, Southern Ontario, so Canadian Zone 6B, for those of you who go by zones or who are curious about what the actual timing of seed starting for me is like. And we're going to be starting a few different things today, including tomatoes and some flowers. And I'm starting today because I have some space with grow light set up where I can have my plants start as seedlings and then mature a little bit for quite a while before I have to transplant them out. So I have this space that I can dedicate to those plants. If you do not have the space to potentially take care of a tomato plant that's, a foot in height and is getting kind of sprawly, and would have sufficient lighting requirements. So at least like 6-8 hours of sunlight, either from a southern facing window or some grow lights by like May, then I think you should wait a little bit to start your tomatoes, because they do grow relatively quickly and they do get pretty big. And if you don't have the room, if you have to move them around, you're gonna end up kind of like breaking one of the plants or just getting frustrated with the process, and we don't want that. We want you to be happy and have tomatoes. So that's what we're going to be doing today. And I'm going to walk you through my seed starting process. And I use soil blocking. I also use pots, but I use soil blocking because I haven't been able to find really solid seed starting trays that would, in my opinion, be worth the investment and would be easy to use. I've seen a lot of them in the States. I would love to get my hands on some of the stuff that people are using over there, but I just haven't come across it. If you do have really good resources for nice seed starting trays, then I would love to hear. But I right now am resorting to soil blocking. And if you do soil blocking, you're going to need one of these contraptions. So there is a little bit of an investment for this. I can link to the one I got. I think this one was from Amazon a couple of years ago. As you can see, it's well used. And you are going to need something to actually put the blocks in. So if I just have your standard kind of seed tray that does not have any holes for waters to drain. So what you're going to end up doing with the soil blocking, if you do choose to use this method, is you're going to pack soil in here. I shouldn't say soil, seed starting mix or potting mix. You're going to pack it in here, and you're going to squeeze this contraption to essentially create these really nice blocks where you can then put your seeds. So we'll go through that. You're going to need some sort of a tray. You're going to need either little pots, seed starting pots, or you're going to need the soil blocker. And you're going to need some soil mix, seed starting mix or potting mix. So what I mean when I say seed starting mix or potting mix, I mean ideally soil-less medium. So you don't want any loam or compost in there. And you can either purchase bags of seed starting mix, which will kind of run you around $8-9 for like a standard small bag, and then they go up for larger, or you can make your own. I made my own this year, so I am sort of experimenting with homemade seed starting mix. And that's because it is less expensive and you can kind of control exactly what's in it. So for my mix, I actually am using a Coco Coir perlite and vermiculite mix. I don't know if you can kind of see that, but I just got a Tupperware container with a lid, mix it all up in there. I'll link below to the materials that I used here, and I might, if there's interest, if you guys want to know how I start my seed starting mix, and I'm happy to do a video on that later as well. But here we are. So we've got our tray, and to the materials, I just want to speak to the materials for a moment, because there you can really go out there and find an overwhelming selection of seed starting trays and, you know, pots and different contraptions, anywhere from the dollar store to the Home Depot to gardening centers, and it can be a little bit overwhelming. If you do not want to spend money on this, you do not have to buy the seed starting tray now. You can use an old Tupperware container you have lying around. The bigger, the easier it is to fit more stuff in there, but you can do small. You can use a storage container, a Tupperware container. You can use any old tray that you have lying around the house that's waterproof and that has a little bit of a lip to it, so that you can pour water into it, and then if anything spills, you know, it can contain a mess. So maybe old trays you have lying around the house. If you're somebody who thrifts and you found, you know, a tray that you really like, you can use that, and you don't mind it being used for gardening. I wouldn't advise you kind of bringing it back into the kitchen then to like serve food on, because it's gonna get grimy. And there's all kinds of bacteria that you're going to, you know, have with plants that you want with plants, but not necessarily, you know, on food that you're going to be eating directly. So, and you can, you know, kind of get creative with this. You don't have to go out and buy one of these right away. I have a few of these because I find that this is the best size to kind of fit the soil blocks that I make. So it's a really good kind of match to the size of the blocking. 1 and 2, you need a dome. You need something that's going to keep the moisture in here until the seedlings emerge. You want to keep the soil mix, the potting mix, I hate to get right with saying that, but the potting mix moist until the seedlings emerge, because the seeds need to stay moist to be able to germinate. So you need something that's going to keep this contained. Now again, you do not have to buy one of these. I have, because I was tired of kind of dealing with like different sizes containers and not fitting this in, and it was just kind of, oh, like it was worth the spend for me. These are not expensive. I think maybe it's, you know, $10. It's not too bad. Depends where you find them. This setup I was actually lucky enough to find in Princess Auto. I think last year or the year before. And so you can grab one of these if you like. But again, you don't have to. If you don't want to go spend money, don't go buy this yet. If you're trying it out for the first time, it's fine. You can use plastic wrap. You can use a clear plastic bag, or maybe even a garbage bag. Or you can use, again, like if you have some Tupperware containers and you have the lid, I know I find, you know, containers that have mismatched lids all the time, and I just kind of, you know, like, what am I going to do with this? Use that and just put the lid on top. If it's a clear lid, it has to be clear, because what you need is you want light in, you need the light to go in, and you want the moisture to stay in. So that's what we need. Something along the lines of a tray and a dome, either cells, seed starting cells, or one of these, or something like this. This is a little bit big, but something like series of little pots that if you have lying around, you can do that. or even recycled containers. It doesn't have to be fancy. You just need to hold some soil together. And you need your potting mix, okay? And some water. And of course, your seeds, whatever you want to be starting. So let's get to that. So for us today, we are going to be doing some tomatoes. So here's my handy list that I got mixed all over, but that you can't see. But I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different kinds of tomatoes that I want to start this year. It's very exciting. It's very exciting. I'm very excited about this. And they're all different. I love tomatoes. Who doesn't? I love them fresh. I love them cooked. I love them dried. I love them on pizza. I love them in everything. So we're going to grab my trusty seed binder. And we're going to go ahead and pull out the tomatoes. And some of these I've already grown last year, so I know that they did quite well. Some of my seeds are from the Eco Seed Bank, and those packets look like this. And I try to source seeds that are Canadian and as local as possible, while still kind of satisfying my urge for variety and, fun, because that's why we're here. Now we also have some just standard kind of greenhouse purchased seeds that are a Gina tomato variety, so that's binding tomato, which I love to just kind of walk around the garden and pick and throw into a salad, and I don't even have to cut anything up. And then we have a few different new tomato seeds, which I'm very excited about, from Hawthorne Farms, and these are organic seeds, and they're just beautifully packed, and it's a beautiful place, and I'm very excited. And they're based in Ontario, so even better, because the more fruit and produce that is grown in a region that is as close to you as possible is going to have a better likelihood of doing well in your climate. 1, 2, you're supporting local economy, local farmers, local growers. And 3, you don't have to pay crazy duty and shipping on things that you want. So why not stay as local as possible? So Hawthorne Farms is amazing, and I'm not, they don't pay me to do anything. They don't know I exist. So, but I do like these, and I'm very excited. I got a bunch of seeds from them this year, so I'm very excited to just try. But we have a Valencia tomato. We have German striped tomato, which, I think, if I remember correctly, is like a yellow with red stripes on it. It's really pretty. And then we have a rose tomato, which is a deep pink, meaty, kind of slicing tomato. So, very excited. We're going to be doing seed starting with all of these now, so binder away. Now, for tomatoes. Whenever you get a seed packet, you will see a good seed packet for me has instructions on it, just as a reference even, because I don't have a very good memory, and I don't want to have to always go look up stuff for every packet. Tomatoes are kind of kind of standard, and that you're starting them 6 to 8 weeks before last frost date. What that means can vary. So, there's that. You're always taking a risk. There's no guarantees. But I like a seed packet that tells you what you should do and reminds you, which is why I love these packets. Because they tell you a little bit about the thing that you're actually planting, that you're getting. And then on the other side, they give you a really nice kind of description about, how you should start them in the recommended way. So for these tomatoes, the instructions are all, if we're doing the Hawthorne Farms. The thing with the Eco Seed Bank one, they don't have anything on them, which and by the way, these are also from Montreal, Canada, which is awesome because they're Canadian, but I do get, like, if I had to make a point system, I do get annoyed at there not being anything about, anything. Now, they do have a picture, which is helpful because, again, visual and helpful, but it doesn't say anything about how you should start this, or the yields, or what they like about it, or anything. But you do have a picture, and I mean, it is a Canadian company, so great. I didn't have the best of luck with the chocolate ones last year, but I did kind of stick them in places where it was less than ideal soil because I went out of room. So I'm trying again. I'm going to be a little bit more diligent this year. But so back to this. So seed packets should give you, I like when they give you information. So for all the tomatoes, usually the instructions are to start them 6 to 8 weeks before your last frost date. As you may have noticed, weather is unpredictable. Here in Southern Ontario, I mean, our last predicted frost date is usually something like May 26th. So it's end of May. Rather than focusing on the dates, try and focus on the months and like the weather in general. Tomatoes will not tolerate cold chill spells. Anything that's if it's under 15 degrees Celsius outside, don't put your tomatoes out. And if you're going to, either kind of try and tuck them in, like cover them, or have them in a greenhouse or a cold frame or something. Words that might mean stuff to some of you, not the rest of you. It's okay, we'll kind of get there in the future. But again, you can start these later. You can start these in March. You have plenty of time. If you would rather not have big plants potentially in your home, or you don't have the space for it, you don't have to start these yet. I will, because 1, I'm impatient, and 2, I have the space. And last year I got lucky and I put my tomatoes out into the garden early. It was early May, and I was kind of watching the weather, and they were okay. That being said, that could have turned out very differently, and we could have had a frost at the end of May or even early June, and I could have lost all of my tomatoes. So I gambled, and I was okay. But this may be giving me a false sense of security. So we will see. But 6 to 8 weeks. So 6 weeks, I kind of say, okay, 8 weeks is, let's say, 2 months. So that means that if I can plant out at the end of May, I can essentially start these seeds at the beginning of April. And I will have little plants that can go out into the garden. However, before you take your plants out into the garden, you have to harden them off. Meaning, you have to take your plants out at, warm, calm, like semi-sunny days to slowly introduce them to the outside world. Because up until the moment you take them outside, they've been in your heated 23 degree, 21 degree, whatever your thermostat is set to, apartment or house. And they've had a steady supply of LED, artificial sunlight, and life was good, and, there wasn't any problems. And all of a sudden you're going to throw them outside to the wind and the scalding sun, and the sun is a lot stronger than any LED you will be able to get indoors. So you need to give them time to adjust. Excuse me. And so that means for me, and again, I'm gambling that I'm going to have plants that are big and ready to go out for a good month before I can even do it. But if I have plants that are ready to kind of maybe go out and the weather turns to be pretty nice, like above the 15 degrees Celsius mark, earlier, then I might take in the advantage of being able to kind of carry them outside and sit them on the patio for an hour. And kind of give them a little bit and get a little bit of a hot start on the hardening off period. But again, it's early, so you can definitely start tomatoes in like end of March, early April even, and you'll be fine. You'll get tomatoes out of the season. So with no further ado, we're going to get going on the soil blocking. So I'm going to kind of move you over here so that you can see the soil blocking process. So I usually take my soil blocker and kind of just like lean it in and get a whole bunch of the starting mix in there. It's easier if you just use your hand to scoop it in because you need a little bit of pressure. And kind of pack it in on both sides. And I'm just noticing too that my mix is a little bit loose, which means that it's not damp enough. So I'm just going to actually add a little bit of water. And I'm going to try and put you right there. Okay, so just adding a little bit of water, mixing that in, and you kind of wanna, when it's wet enough, is when you kind of squeeze the mix, and it should stay lumpier than it is now. This doesn't feel saturated enough yet. And I mean, if you had regular seed starting mix or potting mix, this is easier. But because this is coco coir, the fibers take a little bit longer to kind of soak in the water. Make sure I get a good mix and let that soak. Now we've got a little bit more clumping going on. So I think that for the sake of this is a little bit too much water. But again, I think I need to let this sit a little bit longer for the coco coir to kind of absorb everything and be a little bit more soil-like. And then we'll be able to kind of get in here. This is why I like a good wide container, so you have a little bit of room to work and you don't get soil everywhere. Because I am not doing this outside in whatever -15 weather we've got going on today. So just pack that into my soil blocker and just get my fingers in there, because you really want it to be nice and firmly packed for it to work. This is, I will say, for people who have arthritis or joint pain or an injury to their hand, the soil blocking isn't great. it is kind of a little bit more labor intensive than just taking something like this and kind of being able to, you know, fill it and, you know, being okay. This is going to take a little bit more. So, but we're packed in here. So you kind of want it to be really packed. This seems to be working okay. Get some extra water out there. But we're looking good. And clean off the edges. And then we're going to actually take the seed tray and moment of truth. I'm just going to rinse my hand a little bit just by. Right, I will add more mixing here later so the water will get soaked up, but don't want too much on my hands. And then you're going to pick up your soil blocker like so. In moment of truth, you're just going to want to place it there, pretty down, and then you hold it and you kind of squeeze and lift, and then gently lift up, and voila. So now we have our lovely, very well shaped soil blocks, and the beautiful thing is that it gives you these little divots where you can just drop in your seed and then just scatter a little bit on top. So that's exactly what I'm going to do. I'm just going to go ahead and put my seeds in, drop my seeds in, and label them. And the other thing about labeling is I have definitely been very cocky in the past, thinking that I was going to either remember or I had some type of like a labeling system where I was like, yeah, no, this will work. I'll just, you know, have a reference point. It didn't work, especially for tomatoes. I will say you will have no idea what kind of a tomato it is until it's fruiting, because all the tomato plants look near identical with maybe some slight variations that I am not, you know, skilled enough to be able to unearth. Tomato plants look identical. So get some labels. And again, you do not have to go buy anything expensive. I cut up like plastic containers from the recycling, and I write on with a weatherproof marker. So you want to try and get some like oil-based Sharpies, like gardening Sharpies or gardening markers to write on, or you can put a little bit of masking tape over top because it will smudge, and write there, and just, you know, cut up these little pieces of plastic or popsicle sticks from the dollar store or whatever you have lying around. You don't have to get fancy. It's just about being able to identify what seed and what plant you put where. And especially for me, I'm probably going to do, I have 7 different kinds of tomatoes that I want this year. I will not have space for more than, if I'm being optimistic, I could maybe do 14 plants. I haven't really done my full planning yet, but I'm going to start 2 plants for each of the varieties that I have. And that means I'll probably actually sow 2 seeds in each cell, just because I haven't had great germination rate with the ones from EcoSeed Bank last year, and a bunch of them didn't do great. So I'm going to do 2 per block, label them, and then just cover this up with my dough. And again, you could do like cling wrap or a Tupperware container or whatever you have lying around. And then I'm going to wait patiently. Tuck this in. There's some grow lights. I have the LED Barilla grow lights. They were the least expensive and most well-reviewed that I found. Again, Canadian Amazon a few years ago, which I can link if anybody's interested. But tuck these under grow lights and just wait for the magic to happen and some green to pop up. And it is a patience game, and I'm not a patient person, but when you do see a little bit of green, it's very exciting. And then you get to watch them grow. So, and then you get to start thinking about summer and tomatoes. Any questions, I'd love to hear in the comments. For those of you who are looking for some consulting in your garden area, I'm happy to offer virtual consultations. I can do in-person consultations on site if you are either developing your garden or starting to think about, wanting to do something potentially and you want to know your options. Then I'm happy to do that. And I will see you in the next video.